false teaching. False teaching. Namely, to draw one away from the truth. Okay? And the church cooperates, the Christians cooperate with Satan because they will ask the question, why are you so hung up over doctrine? Or what is so important about doctrine? You know, it's like when you have kids going to school and they come home and you know they've been talking with their buddies. I don't want to go to school anymore. What do I need it for? You know? Anybody hear kids say that kind of stuff? My kids did that. My younger one particularly. And I remember being in engineering school, first semester. Why are we learning this? Why do we need that? You know, I'm going to go out there and be an engineer. What do I need to learn this kind of stuff? And of course, there were some certain core subjects like social sciences and humanities and English composition. But I'm an engineer. I'm going to be an engineer. Why do I need to know how to speak English?
The engineers still can't write in English.
That's right. Today I are one. So false teaching. What's the second element? It's all well and good to have a body of false teaching, but it's got to be what? It's got to be disseminated, right? Satan has an unlimited body of false teaching. But what good is it if it's only in his head or within his own minions, his ghouls, his demons, and it's not going out into the world population? So the second element is organization. Now we're talking about the dragnet process. This is a satanical process. And we're talking about the most intelligent created creature, Satan, and he's organized. He wants to achieve his objective. And he has to what? Live up to what the Bible calls him as the what? Deceiver, right? All in bold capital letters. All right? So if he's a deceiver, that means he's got to get out there to that audience and deceive them and do a good job. Disseminating false teaching and getting it out there in an organized manner whereby efficiently with the time shrinking available to him, he's got to impact a global population. So he has to have an organization worldwide in scope in order to spread the false teaching. And that's where this worldwide net comes in today and other things as well. Now, what is the common objective? What is Satan doing all of this for? Why does he want to win in this conflict for dominion?
He thinks he can win.
No, there's no question about it. He is, remember this, the deceiver, Satan, is singularly the one who is the singularly most deceived in all of creation. And you can't outright, when it comes to literature, you can't out-author or beat God himself. The deceiver is also the greatest, singularly unrivaled, self-deceived creature. And so you're right. But what is his objective?
Worship.
Worship. Never forget that. Worldwide satanical worship. He has no capacity, he has no tolerance, no patience for anyone rivaling him for worship. That's why the false prophet or the one world false religious system will serve him well for a while, but then he moves in on the world stage and he will not share the pinnacle of power with anyone at that point. It'll be strictly the Antichrist. Okay? So, two elements, false teaching, a universal-wide organization to disseminate that false teaching for the purpose of defeating his enemy, namely God, namely Jesus Christ, preempting the plan of redemption for mankind, and therefore reducing God to a liar, and he stepping into or sitting on the throne of Jesus and singularly being worshipped. That's his eternal quest, undying quest. Okay? Yes?
Sometimes
on our way home, Janet and I listened to John Tesh, is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, last week he had an interesting thing when he was talking about what psychologists are now saying is a good thing, is that we should lie to ourselves. We should self-deceive ourselves about certain things when we run up against a brick wall or we're having a hard time. Tell ourselves we're better than we really are, and we really can do these things that we really can't until, maybe we will be able to. And I thought that was very interesting that there are, in psychology today, they're starting to say it's okay to self-deceive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Think back to the time when the book came out, 70s, 80s, Address for Success. The whole premise was you put on the airs, and then success becomes you. And it's right when you talk about with Satan, I will become this. It's the self-made premise.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate expression of pride is I can become whatever I dream myself to
Mm-hmm.
become.
Mm-hmm.
Same old story, repackaged.
It's all repackaged, exactly. It's the
Recycled
same old
lies.
lie going all the way back to the Garden of Eden. You shall be like God.
That's right.
Do you know who Sid Roth is?
Yes. I'm aware of him, yes.
Well, I had never heard of him, but we have a relative who wanted us to listen to he had a guy on there talking about aliens taking people and putting this chip in them, which he was correlating to the mark of the beast and how it changes your DNA, and it was it was crazy. It was just
you don't as long as you see that, and then I wouldn't waste time on it.
This was a person,
UFOs and all of that kind
Yeah.
of subject is demonic in nature.
But this person who wanted us to look at this as a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and she's believing this stuff.
Let me
or
just make
considering
a
it
point
anyway.
on that, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
My heart goes out to guys like Hal Lindsey and Sid. These guys who are on the TV every single week. Some are on the TV every single day. That's a tall, tall order. You are. It's not like a Sunday school class once a week. For one, I teach twice a week. It's every single day. And I say not like a Sunday school class, or when I teach like on Wednesdays, a small conclave of students. But you're standing up before cameras that you know is going to transmit you to a multi-million population of observers. Do that day in and day out, or week after week after week. That is one difficult tall order. And there's times when you're running out of material, or you allow the devil to convince you that, well, I've taught so much out of this, I've pretty much exhausted it. I need something that's going to jazz up the program and get more viewers, and where I'll get that limelight back on me from others who are competing with me. All of that secular mindedness of competition, rivalry, and getting a larger audience is exceedingly dangerous and very unbiblical. And when you keep that in mind, from time to time you'll see on these various programs, sometimes a particular program that is esoteric or a little bit off the wall, very tantalizing, speculative, very little said in terms of its being put in perspective with respect to the Scripture, unfortunately. Just keep that in mind and recognize that they're grasping at something that is trying to keep their ratings up, or keep them on the network, or keep the funds coming in, or what have you. I think Schweigert went down because he was in that category, but the burden on him was he had a multi-million-dollar bill every week or every month, and he wasn't getting adequate rest, once like a month off per year, and I think he fell. He had a weakness. Every one of us has a weakness. And if we don't get proper rest, that weakness becomes more and more vulnerable and is subject to attack by Satan. And so just that thought, that doesn't mean that Sid Roth is a bad guy or that he doesn't have excellent programming and excellent guests. But from time to time, if it isn't properly qualified or disclaimed, then the burden is on us individually to have the discernment. This is off the wall. This is not biblical. All right, now, who is the mastermind behind the dragnet? Satan himself. And this is, of course, we can discern that, but we have the scripture behind it. The enemy that sowed the tares of the wicked is the devil, Satan, Matthew 13:39. Who said this? Jesus himself. So it's an open and shut case. We're not interpreting or trying to translate in such a way that we have to figure it out. He absolutely categorically establishes that behind the dragnet process is Satan himself. Similarly, the enemy behind the dragnet is also the devil. Another question, can knowing who the enemy is help? Especially with insights, with respect to insights into false teaching and organization. This is where I think we left off last week, believe it or not. I don't know if I teased you and left you with just the question for you to mull over during the rest of the week until this class or not, or did we actually share these two scriptures with you? 2 Corinthians, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. 2 Corinthians 2:11. Also put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Ephesians 6:11. Devices, wiles, what's another word based on the Greek? Somebody said it right. Schemes. Yeah, scheming. It's sinister. Okay. And the know thine enemy is the beginning of knowing how to what? Defend yourself and also to take on the offense. We shared with you the idea of General Patton during World War II. The Allied forces were taking a beating in North Africa at the hands of the German tank commander, notorious and famous and very victorious Rommel. But Patton came along and he beat him. How did he do it?
He read his book.
He read his book. We won't put in the explicative that Patton put in that went into the movie. But you so-and-so, I read your book. And because he knew the enemy, he knew his strategy, and he set a trap for him. He caught him in his own trap. So the answer is absolutely yes. The more we understand the enemy as within the framework of Scripture, we don't want to become obsessed. We don't have to look for a devil under every single rock or behind every little picture on the wall. But we want to biblically have a discernment and a knowledge of the scheming of the devil so that we don't become what? For instance, recruited by the devil for his devilish schemes. All right, now, how and where do we learn of his devices? And the class roared back with scriptures. Okay, good.
That was a really loud roar.
The mouse that roared.
Yeah.
Whoever roared, you're not a mouse. You were courageous. The insights, thus the insights into false teaching and the organization necessary for disseminating it on a worldwide scale, thus the dragnet process, are also derived from the scriptures. First, false teachings. We're going to look at that. Remember, there are two elements, the false teaching and then the organization behind it to disseminate that false teaching. We're going to take it a step at a time. We're going to today look at the false teaching, okay? And